from the legislative side, what important legislation is currently being worked on that could have an impact on the appraisal industry?
Well, the PAVE report, have you looked at that? I mean, that's definitely going to change the landscape, or trying to change the landscape. I mean, I think a number of things that came out of that was the profession as a whole. We need to diversify it. We need to provide some other opportunities for allowing individuals to come into this profession. We've seen there's been some obstacles and barriers in place, and the PAVE report and the legislation has been trying to put in place to make changes there. So I think that's what's going to really impact this profession. And I will also say the profession has heard that, and we're trying to do things to make changes. We're not sitting back and waiting for the government to come in and change what we're doing. ASA, Appraisal Institute, and a number of organizations are making changes. One of the things that, and I think Rodman will talk about this a little bit, is the PREA program. You know, that's really going to change the landscape for allowing individuals to come into this profession without having to do what we've had the system in place before. So those are the things that I definitely see that's going to happen from a legislation standpoint.
And like you said, Johnny, we've got to step down. If we want diversity, we've got to go figure out where that is. And if all we've been doing is reaching out for population professionals in one area, and we haven't found them, then we need to rethink that. And maybe it's at the community college level, maybe it's at other institutions. And how do we deliver that? Because I know from myself, if I mentor an appraiser along, right, for 2 years, and they get their license, guess what happens? They get hired by somebody else, or a bank or a Wall Street institution, making double what I can pay. And am I really incentivized to go back and do that whole process again? Probably not. So if we can create more that uses technology, that creates a better or different mentoring program, that's better for our industry. So those in the industry out there that are peers that they haven't understood and look at what PAVE or PAGE or PREA mean, it's very material, and it's really aimed at getting the diversity that we've lost. I grew up as a third generation appraiser, MAI, it was just part of the DNA. And so a lot of the industry looks more like me because it was a homegrown industry that grew up with their kids. And as an industry, we really didn't reach down and try to diversify. It wasn't intentional to keep people out. It just was, we followed an easy path. And now we've got to change that up in a radical way. So if you don't understand PAVE or PREA, you really do need to. It's coming fast. It's going to change our landscape like we've never seen before. And then I think the other thing is there's more complexity to our properties and more property types than we've ever thought about our core 4 or 5, whether it's adaptive reuse or for rent subdivisions or manufactured home communities, that you now can get a Fannie Mae loan on a manufactured home community. How many appraisers know that? What does that mean for a game changer on housing affordability? So you're right, Johnny, PAVE and PREA, go study the heck out of them. They're coming fast.
Yeah, and when a lot of these issues started presenting themselves, it's really easy to put your head in the sand and say, hey, there's not a problem, right? But it takes really strong leadership to go, if there's a problem, we want to be a part of the solutions, right? And so, a lot of this stuff was coming in during my term as AI president. And I wanted to make sure that we were going to be a leader in the space, that we were going to be looking for solutions, trying to identify their problem. That's what we do as appraisers. We identify the problem, and then we give an appraisal or do a solution. And so for me, it was going to be really important that's what we were going to do. We were going to be a part of the conversations. We were going to be moving the discussion. We were going to, and the thing about like the Appraisal Institute is we've always wanted diversity. We've always looked for diversity, but it's always been a very hard lift. But when all this, the bias and some of the other issues started coming to the forefront, we really had an opportunity to also say, here's who we are. We want you to be a part of us. So we had scholarships that, before we couldn't get our scholarships, our diversity scholarships, we couldn't get those to move. And when all of a sudden these issues started coming up, it was an opportunity for us to say, here we are, this is what we have available. And then those scholarships started getting used. People started coming in. That last conference that I went to, the last Appraisal Institute conference that I went to, I was blown away when I walked around that room to see how much diversity that had already been created within our landscape, just within a short period of time. And I know, Johnny, you were there too. And I got to meet a lot of people who were in the programs, who were going through the training, who were coming up and through. And I'll tell you, it was one of the most gratifying things for me to see is the difference that 1 year could make in terms of diversity. Young, diverse, intelligent, very professional, just the incredible people coming into the profession that I couldn't have even imagined that we were going to get in. So there was, yes, a little bit of a difficult period of time, and there's still some difficult periods of time, but I will say that we're making really good headway right now. I feel that we're moving the ball. I think that is where we set the benchmark to see where we were at. I think when we start gauging how we're moving, I think we're going to have some very good upward mobility in our diversity. The other thing that I would say that in terms of legislative action, something that's been on my plate for a long time, it's going to fall off my plate here in about 2 weeks because I will no longer be in the AI leadership, but there's the Powell Act that we've had out there for a long time too and been pushing. And that's an appraisal portal. Like right now, if you go get licensed, there's so many appraisers who are licensed in multiple states. So if you're licensed in 10 states, 15 states, you go through fingerprinting through 10 to 15 states. You go through background checks for all 10 to 15. The Powell Act is trying to streamline that so you can go one application process, one set of fingerprints, one set of background checks, and then, yeah, you're still going to pay state licensing fees because you've got to have the states be able to function. They do need to raise monies in order to be regulatory, to regulate the industry. But my gosh, I mean, for somebody who holds a lot of licenses, to be able to go to one place to get licensed will take, I can't even tell you how many hours off an appraiser's plate. So that's a piece of legislation that's sitting out there. I hope that eventually that gets passed because that would be such less burden for appraisers out there in terms of that licensing process. So keep an eye out on that. And if you get a chance, I would, call your legislators and support that too, because I think it's a really good thing for appraisers.
Leadership on that because I gave up, having 10 licenses and just do enough expert witness that I go get the temporary license. So Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Colorado, 4 of the most difficult. The fees range from $30 to $400. And it can take anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months. It just took 2 months in Florida because of the harassment factor to get it all the way through. So you're exactly right. And so thank you for your leadership on that. It could be a game changer. That's one of those legislative things all of us should support.
Yeah. And Ron, what I was going to say is hopefully if we can get that passed, then we can move forward with CE too, because as you know, if you're getting your CE, you got to get it for each state. And on the back end, from an administrative standpoint, it's a pain to get the programs approved by each state. So if there was some type of clearinghouse that can do that, it would be great.
And that would go perfectly with that portal. I mean, the licensing portal. So I agree with you 100%.
Exactly.